Imagine waking up one morning to discover this. The world around you is louder than ever, faster than ever, and more connected than ever. Yet somehow, people are thinking less, not more. Critical thinking, the very tool that built civilizations, questioned kings, and gave birth to science, is quietly vanishing. We live in an age of unlimited information, yet we're drowning in ignorance. A time when truth can be Googled in seconds, but lies spread in milliseconds. And the scariest part? Most people don't even notice it's happening. What we're witnessing is not just misinformation, it's not just laziness. It is the rise of collective stupidity, a silent epidemic that eats away at curiosity, independence, and the courage to question. The question is, how did we get here? And how do we get out? Let me ask you, have you ever been in a group where everyone just nodded along, even though you could feel in your gut that something was off? Maybe at school when a teacher said something wrong, but nobody corrected it. Maybe at work, when the boss pushed a bad idea and everyone smiled, pretending it was genius. Or maybe online, scrolling through comments where thousands of people repeat the same shallow opinion, without anyone daring to pause and say, wait, does this even make sense? That's what collective stupidity feels like. It's like standing in a room filled with smoke, so thick that you can't see clearly, but everyone insists the air is fresh. Once upon a time, knowledge was rare. People fought for it, treasured it, passed it down carefully. Now, knowledge is cheap, free, everywhere. So abundant that it loses its value. We no longer question. We no longer pause. We scroll. We consume. We conform. And in doing so, we trade our ability to think for the comfort of being part of the crowd. But history whispers a warning. Every society that silences critical thought eventually collapses under the weight of its own blindness. So let's break this down into 7 core reasons why critical thinking is disappearing and how this fuels the rise of collective stupidity. 1. Information overload, paralysis, not clarity. We think more information makes us smarter, but in reality, too much information can paralyze us. Picture standing in a library with millions of books, but all the books are thrown into a pile. No structure, no order, just noise. Would you become wise or overwhelmed? That's what the internet has become. Daniel Kahneman, Nobel Prize-winning psychologist, explained that our brains use shortcuts to deal with complexity. But in an age of overload, those shortcuts turn into traps. We don't analyze, we skim. We don't verify, we assume. The result? We confuse knowing about things with actually understanding them. So let me ask you, do you think you're learning, or are you just collecting headlines in your head? 2. The algorithmic echo chamber. Social media doesn't show you the truth. It shows you what keeps you scrolling. And what keeps you scrolling? Outrage, confirmation, simplicity. The algorithm whispers, here's more of what you already believe. Here's proof you're right. Here's 100 people who agree with you. But truth doesn't live in echo chambers. Truth lives in friction, in disagreement, in debate. Noam Chomsky once said, the smart way to keep people passive is to strictly limit the spectrum of acceptable opinion, but allow lively debate within that. That's exactly what's happening now. We feel like we're thinking freely, but in reality, we're trapped inside curated bubbles. So reflect. When was the last time you truly challenged your own beliefs, not just others? 3. The death of attention. Critical thinking requires silence. It requires sitting with an idea, turning it around, asking why, 5 times until the truth begins to emerge. But silence is gone. Our attention is chopped into notifications, reels, TikToks, tweets. We consume in fragments. We live in fragments. We think in fragments. The philosopher Blaise Pascal once wrote, all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. Now imagine Pascal scrolling on Instagram. He'd probably faint. Because here's the hard truth. If you cannot pay attention deeply, you cannot think deeply. And if you cannot think deeply, you will be controlled by those who can. Ask yourself, do you control your attention, or does someone else? 4. Fear of standing alone. Critical thinking isn't just about intelligence. It's about courage. The courage to stand apart, to be unpopular, to say, the emperor has no clothes. But today, cancel culture, mob outrage, and digital shaming make people terrified of being wrong. So they'd rather stay silent than question. Nietzsche once wrote, The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try it, you will often be lonely and sometimes frightened. But no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself. Most people aren't willing to pay that price, so they merge into the collective. They think what others think. They laugh when others laugh. They obey when others obey. But here's the paradox. The more we blend in, the more we lose ourselves. So, do you own your thoughts, or do they belong to the crowd? 5. Education without thinking. We are trained to memorize, not to question. Schools reward obedience, not curiosity. We learn to pass tests, not to challenge ideas. We graduate knowing how to recite facts, but not how to connect them, how to critique them, how to build on them. Carl Sagan once warned, "We live in a society exquisitely dependent on science and technology, in which hardly anyone knows anything about science and technology." In other words, we depend on what we don't understand. That's not education, that's programming. So think, did school teach you how to think, or just how to follow instructions? 6. Comfort over truth. Let's be honest. Most people don't want the truth. They want comfort. Truth is complicated. Truth is painful. Truth requires change. Comfort is easy. Comfort is smooth. Comfort lets us stay the same. And so collective stupidity thrives because it feels good. It's warm. It's cozy. It's the soft blanket that says, don't worry about it. Just go along. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, wrote in Meditations, "If someone can show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth by which no one was ever truly harmed." But how many people today can say the same? How many would rather change their mind than protect their ego? 7. The erosion of wisdom. We mistake knowledge for wisdom, but wisdom is deeper. Knowledge is knowing that fire burns. Wisdom is knowing when to light a fire and when not to. But in the digital age, we chase trivia, not wisdom. We chase dopamine, not depth. And in doing so, we lose perspective. Socrates once declared, "The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing." But today, everyone thinks they know everything because they read one tweet, one headline, one thread. And so society drowns not in ignorance, but in arrogance. The question is, do you have the humility to admit what you don't know? If you step back, you'll see a pattern. Every great thinker warned us about this. Plato warned about the cave, people chained, mistaking shadows for reality. Orwell warned about groupthink, where truth is not what is real, but what the majority says. Carl Sagan warned about pseudoscience and superstition rising when education failed. Kahneman showed us how our brains take shortcuts that often deceive us. And now, in the 21st century, we're watching all those warnings come true at once. We are the prisoners in Plato's cave, scrolling shadows on our screens. We are the characters in Orwell's book, mistaking consensus for truth. We are the citizens Sagan feared, dependent on technology, yet incapable of questioning it. The philosophers weren't writing about the past. They were writing about us. And here's where it gets personal. When critical thinking dies, freedom dies with it. Without it, we cannot make real choices. We only consume the choices offered. Without it, we cannot grow. We only repeat what we are told. Without it, we cannot resist a manipulation. We become perfect puppets, dancing to someone else's strings. Look around. Fake news shapes elections. Conspiracies spread faster than facts. Companies design apps not to inform you, but to addict you. People fight online with certainty, but live offline with confusion. And the tragedy, most don't even realize it. They think they're free while wearing invisible chains. So here's the deepest truth. Critical thinking isn't disappearing because it's too hard. It's disappearing because it's too lonely. To think critically is to stand apart, to say, I see what everyone else sees, but I refuse to believe it without proof. To risk being mocked, doubted, isolated. But here's the paradox of life. The crowd gives you comfort, but only solitude gives you clarity. And the future belongs not to the comfortable, but to the clear-minded. So I'll ask you one last question. Do you want to be part of the crowd or part of the few who still dare to think? If this message shook something inside you, don't let it fade. Guard your mind. Question everything. Practice the discipline of silence, attention, and curiosity, because the world doesn't need more noise. It needs more thinkers. And if you want to be part of a community that values depth over distraction, subscribe, like, and share this video. Not just because it helps this channel, but because it helps spread the reminder that truth still matters. Remember this: Stupidity is contagious, but so is courage. An uncritical mind, yours, can spark 1,000 others. Stay awake, stay questioning, stay human.